You have some very iconic voiceovers you've done. I think for Airtel.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which one is that again?
It's Airtel, the smartphone network.
That's your voice.
That's my voice. When I was about 13 or so, my father passed. My father was a medical doctor, and my mom was a midwife. My father started having kidney failure, so he had to be flown abroad, and he tried transplants and all sorts of things. It really took a toll on the family. Eventually, I had to be pulled out of school. And, basically, we just kind of got shuffled around because the funds to maintain the standard of living that we had was just not there. I had a good relationship with my elder brother. We were quite close, and basically we looked out for each other. We would go to the village markets and pick up yams, or pick up oranges and mangoes, and take them to the towns where the market would be. He would drive, and this little wiry boy would be the conductor.
A conductor. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Helping to load the pickup and collect the money from the people, and that really, I saw a different side of life. I've worked for practically all of the telecoms. I think maybe all the banks, maybe except for some of the newer banks. Okay. Yes. But I've been around.
Yes. Yeah. How does someone become a public speaker, like an effective public speaker?
One of my big words is,
how do I get a voice like yours? If I want to, is it possible?
I can't tell you how you could get it. You could.
So before we continue the episode, I would like to appeal to you to subscribe to the channel. We want to grow, we want to scale this thing all the way to the moon, and the only way you can help us do that is by hitting that subscribe button. Thank you. Let's get back to the episode. Mr. Ahide Arome Adum, you're welcome to Yellow.
Thank you.
Yes. The first time I heard about you was through your voice, the Pan and Parsipal songs. And it was intriguing when I finally saw your old videos and saw how young you were with that kind of voice. How did you do that?
I think it's more about biology than anything. Voices usually crack, let's say, between 14 and 16. And that's how it was for me. My voice cracked, I think I must have been 14 or 15. I think 14 when my voice cracked. And within a very short period, it just dropped down about an octave or two.
Well, if you ask me, I would say you were sick if your voice was that deep and you were that young.
Truth is that I would always attract a lot of attention. Then I was really skinny, not too tall, so I was quite small. But every time I would open up my mouth, people would be kind of surprised.
Yeah. So you're a man that wears many hats. You're a voiceover artist, you're an actor, you're a musician, you're a communicator, storyteller, puppeteer, stage actor, screen actor. How do you describe yourself?
The voice merchant.
The voice merchant.
It's a term that I coined, particularly because everything I do kind of revolves around my voice. And basically that's where most of my income comes from anyway. So the voice merchant, I think, kind of in a capsule, that would describe who I am.
So how did you get into discovering that your voice can be used to make an impact or to make money or something like that?
Well, in my early teens, I became quite shy because of my voice, and I wouldn't speak up much, especially in public. Well, I was born and raised in the city of Jos, but when I was about early teens, about 13 or so, my father passed. And so I was out of Jos for about 2 years. And then I came back to Jos, 2 or 3 years, I can't quite remember. But I came back to Jos, and I went for a program with my sister, and we sang together. And before we sang, I introduced the song. And after the song, Dr. Panam walked up to me and said, you have a good speaking voice. Why don't you come by the studio and, maybe you do something for me. And that's the first time I had never experienced a script or using my voice, voiceover. And he gave me the script. And basically, just to help me navigate what to do, he said, read this like the people on BBC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I could relate to that. So I read it and he said I did a great job. But that was the first time I actually did a voiceover or understood that there was something called a voiceover. If I remember correctly, I think he paid me a few hundred naira.
Yeah.
Which was also outstanding.
At that time.
At that time.
Yeah.
My father was a medical doctor.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he was. And my mom was a midwife. And she was a professional too. At a certain point in time, she was the principal of the school of midwifery in Vom. So when my father started having complications with, kidney failure.
Wow.
So he had to be flown abroad and they tried transplants and all sorts of things. And it really took a toll on the family. And eventually I had to be pulled out of school. And, basically we just kind of got shuffled around because the funds to take care of or to maintain the standard of living that we had was just not there, And it was in the course of that I also met with a certain group of people who were not nominal Christians. These were people who took their faith in God more seriously. And I was introduced to them and I began to encounter maybe a different page or picture of what life was, And eventually by the time I was, 14, I had encountered these serious Christians. By the time I was 17, I had made up my mind that this is what I wanted to do. And I wanted this same kind of zeal and commitment to faith to guide my life. So, that's the beginning. There's a whole lot more to say, but...
Yeah. So you went to the village?
Not to the village.
Okay.
Of course, when my dad passed, my father was a Tiv man from Benue State. And when he passed, of course, we had to go back to Makurdi after his burial. I was pulled out of school here in Jos from Hillcrest, where I was.
Oh, Hillcrest?
Yes. Yes. I was in Hillcrest along with 3 older siblings.
That would be a lot.
Yeah, well, things were good back then. So when I got pulled out, I got a school in Makurdi Technical College. I did my Form 5 in Benue. And needless to say, life changed drastically.
How did it change?
I began to understand that life wasn't about being fended for or provided for. I began to understand what it meant to be productive, just to live and survive. See, my dad fell ill when I was about maybe 10 or 11.
Okay.
And immediately the strain on finances in the family started. Within a few years, I found myself having to save up whatever money I could to buy soap, bathing soap. And for a 12-year-old kid, that's kind of strange. Bathing soap, body cream, toothpaste, toothbrush, But by the time we moved back to Makurdi, there really wasn't anybody looking out for me. I had a good relationship with my elder brother. We were quite close. And basically, we looked out for each other. In fact, during that time, he was an athlete. And he won some national games, some medals. And he bought a pickup, a Peugeot 404 pickup. And with that pickup, we would go to the village markets and pick up yams or pick up oranges and mangoes and take them to the towns where the market would be. Sometimes we'd take them to Makurdi itself, but mostly from the village to the town markets. And he would drive, and this little wiry boy would be the conductor.
A conductor? Oh my goodness.
helping to load the pickup and collect the money from the people, and that really, I saw a different side of life.
Oh my God, from Hillcrest to that?
Yeah, it toughened me.
Wow.
Yeah, it toughened me. I got to realize that things aren't handed to you in life. In fact, sometimes even your negotiation is not enough. Sometimes you just have to take things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Tell me, when you were a conductor, I can imagine you were speaking this very posh English.
But the thing was that I wasn't aware.
Okay.
And you see, because where I was coming from, I was speaking normally.
Mm-hmm.
But I would always notice that every time I spoke, people would turn. But I would attribute that to the depth of my voice. But it wasn't that alone. I obviously had an accent, an American accent,
Uh-huh.
And the only time I realized was when my elder sister came to visit in Makurdi, and I had been there for a few months. When she began to speak, I was taken aback. Yeah, because she was fast.
Mm-hmm.
She sounded like a total American. And then I realized this is what I sound like to people. You know.
You have done a couple of significant jobs with reputable organizations. Can you tell me how did you manage to achieve that? At what point did you start landing a career in voiceover?
Well, like I told you, my first job was with Dr. Panam. And from then on, I ran in the studio, in Dr. Panam's studio, I was also introduced to Steve Gukas.
Oh.
Yes. And Steve was instrumental to me doing more professional jobs because he would get jobs from radio stations, from PRTV, and from other stations, around the north. And right from Jos, I really began to hone my craft. And I became quite proficient. And then I had a chance to move down to Lagos.
Hmm.
Now, before I moved down to Lagos, I had established myself as something of a local champion and some sort of a CEO. I had my my visions of a company, and I was everything to the company. But by the time I moved down to Lagos, the market is much more mature than what we have here. Then we didn't have advertising agencies here in Jos. But in Lagos, you couldn't work for a client directly. So when I got to Lagos, I tried to make a few pitches here and there. But most of them would say to me, look, we have an agency that handles our media and everything we do. Just go talk to them. And initially I felt bad, but by the time I got introduced to the agencies, I found out that I was making more as a supplier to the agencies than I was as a CEO. When you're making more money, it's kind of makes it all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You have some very iconic voiceovers you've done. I think for Airtel.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which one is that again?
Airtel. I think I'm not sure what they're using now, but it's Airtel, the smartphone network.
That's your voice.
That's my voice.
Oh wow.
That's my voice.
It's
I have worked for. I've worked for practically all of the telecoms. I think maybe all the banks, maybe except for some of the newer
oh,
banks. Yes,
okay.
but I've been around.
Yes. Yeah. How do you navigate communicating with clarity? Right, because I've listened to some of your voiceovers. When you read it, it sounds very different and it sounds alive.
I guess this is where the skill of voiceover comes into the picture. And many times people think it's just the ability to speak well.
Yeah.
A script demands more than your ability to speak well.
Hmm.
And this is why sometimes we've encountered situations where, for instance, on air personalities come into the studio and they think they can read a script like a voiceover artist until they get behind the microphone. And then they realize this isn't just, me and my personality.
Hmm.
It requires skill. The script will direct you on what you need to do. So, for instance, if I have let's say, a product commercial,
Yeah.
the nature of the product itself and the way the script is written immediately begins to advise you on how to approach it, what tone, and your voice has different tones. You have your regular speaking voice, which is what I'm doing now. Even though I am, every time I come into the city of Jos, I always have a little battle with the weather, you know. Um, but I do have other tones where if the commercial is exciting, I can't stay in this comfortable, low, laid back tone. I have to kind of lift my voice up a little bit and give it that little push, to make it sound more exciting, more engaging. At the same time, if I have a product like, for instance, some alcoholic beverage, most alcoholic beverages have a certain way they want their commercials to sound, because what they try to sell is not the taste of the beverage, which I can testify is not quite sellable. But there is a general prestige around the beverage, and there's a kind of lifestyle that they kind of call out to you, and they try to say that if you are in this strata of society and you mingle with these kind of people, then you are this kind of person. You should be the kind of person that takes this kind of beverage.
Yeah.
And in order to send that message home, they need a reassuring voice. It needs to be deep. It needs to have gravitas. It needs to be able to sell. And I hope nobody will crucify me for this.
Masculinity.
It needs to be able to sell a not so good tasting beverage.
Oh. So it's the experience. It's not even the product.
It's the experience.
Okay.
That's what they sell. And your voice needs to be able to sell that. So the script decides.
Communication is one of those things that people dread, especially public communication.
Yes.
I've been
public speaking.
Yeah, public speaking.
Yes.
And I think there's a research that says more people are afraid of public speaking than even dying.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
So I one of those places that I met you for the first time was a concert.
Okay.
And it was I think it was a Panam's concert as well. And I didn't know you were emceeing. I mean, I've been hearing about you, but I've never seen you. I've only seen videos of you back in the day when you were still very, very young.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I was in this concert. I got there early, and I started hearing this deep, resounding voice hyping something. I mean, I thought we were in heaven, right? So guess what? The ladies were screaming.
Oh.
They were like, wow, what's going on here? I was like, I want to see this person. Then I saw this guy just come in with little like gray hair, and you just introduced yourself as Ahide Adum. I'm like, oh my God. Right. How does someone become a public speaker, like an effective public speaker? What are some of those skills that you think, or some of those nuances that people can navigate to, get to that point where they're very fluent and confident? Because I think it's more about confidence, right?
It is. One of my big words is clarity. And I tell people that if you are clear about what you want to communicate, you usually will be clear in your communication. If you're clear in your thoughts, you'll be clear in your words. If you're muddled up in your thoughts, you usually will be muddled up in your words. And people will find it difficult to understand what you're saying. So if you're clear about your subject matter, so a concert is a place where I'm comfortable on stage. I'm comfortable with the environment. I know the environment. I know what the audience is expecting. I'm probably familiar with most of the audience, maybe not personally, but if they're, for instance, a church audience, I'm familiar with them. If they're not, I'm probably still familiar with maybe what company they come from or their background or the kind of people that they are. So when I'm up on stage, I'm already in familiar terrain.
Yeah.
And because of my familiarity, I'm clear.
Hmm.
Because of my clarity in terms of my thinking and what I want to communicate, it comes out clearly. That's what gives me the confidence to say things the way I say them and do things the way I do them. So for me, that is probably the very first thing I would say to anybody.
Yeah.
Be clear about your subject matter.
Hmm.
It'll come across very clearly in the way you speak, in the way you present yourself.
Hmm. So, how do I get a voice like yours? If I want to, is it possible?
Uh, in terms of possibility, I don't know. I can tell you how you can get it. You could resurrect my mom and my dad,
Okay. Did you?
convince them to have another child,
Okay.
and insert yourself somehow into the body of that child.
Does everyone in your family have a deep voice?
No.
Okay.
In fact, I'm the seventh of 10 children,
Wow.
4 boys and 6 girls, one father, one mother. I'm number 7, and I'm the only one in the family that has a voice like mine.
The only one.
The only one.
Okay.
When you develop, there are techniques that you can develop
Hmm.
that can enhance your voice. I don't know that it can, because the depth of your voice has to do with the size of your vocal cords.
Okay.
So the larger your vocal cords, the deeper the tone of your voice. However, you can develop, through exercises, you can develop certain skills that can make your voice sound deeper.
Yeah.
And they're quite effective.
Hmm.
But I don't know that you can, that there are skills where you can actually increase the size of your vocal cords, But you can develop skills to help you sound deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are those skills? Do you have any tips?
One of the things that makes a voice sound deep is that as I speak to you right now,
Hmm.
even I, and this is quite interesting to me, even I can hear the slight rumble in my voice, right? So when I say the word voice, that sound, oi, oi, I can hear the rumble of the depth of my voice,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And it's because I am speaking at a certain place within my vocal cords. And it's like a resonance,
Yeah.
and I can feel it in my chest. Now, everybody has this. If you wake up in the morning, your voice is usually, your cords are usually quite relaxed. So your voice will drop and be deeper. And you will have more of that resonance in your voice. So if you learn to focus on that when you speak, so you wake up early in the morning, you say good morning, you feel your voice when you say it. Good
Hmm.
morning. You could hear that resonance, and you just focus on that and keep repeating that to yourself and constantly try to sound like that. It's not so much what you hear, it's more of how it feels.
Wow.
Yeah. If you could hear that resonance in your voice and try to duplicate that as you speak or as you make a presentation, your voice will generally sound deeper.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's one tip. Any other tip
So
might
if I can
cost
feel
some money.
it. Okay, my customer. Yeah. So because like a lot of people go into like voice training,
Mhm.
and voice training is very, very, very painful.
It is. It
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah, and it takes time for
Yes.
that to happen.
Yes.
I've heard tips like eat raw okra before you go to sleep.
Yeah. Well, um, I don't know that some of these tips are scientifically proven,
Mm.
but I know that people generally just have uh, the mindset that anything slimy or slippery, you know, anything to smoothen, your vocal cords
Yeah.
or to soothe them will help. And I think, in a simple way, yes, it'll help. But it's not as if the okra does anything spectacular. If your vocal cords are dry and brittle, they're just not pliable. Your voice, let me say, it reduces in flexibility. You can't manipulate it. But if your vocal cords are moist, then they're more pliable.
Huh.
Yes, basically. So there's a tip I learned quite early as a singer. We have a tendency when we're in front of a mic to clear our throat and speak.
Mm-hmm.
Well, clearing your throat usually means getting rid of that moisture, that film of moisture that you feel in your vocal cords. And the tip I learned was that when you clear your throat, swallow.
After clearing.
After clearing,
swallow.
Swallow. Because you still need a film of moisture to keep your vocal cords supple. If you keep clearing without swallowing, you'll dry out your vocal cords.
Huh.
Yeah.
I have been in a situation where I was speaking publicly and everything, there was no single liquid in my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nervousness.
Oh, okay.
It is. Your body is basically telling you, get me out of here or we will die. This is basically what your body is saying to you. Some people break out in a cold sweat. Some people, yours truly, will have their knees actually shaking. Yeah, your knees practically knocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's your body's way of saying we are not comfortable where we are. Of course, the remedy for it is to take a sip of water. If that's not immediately available, I always advise people, if you're already up on stage maybe or in front of a microphone, just pause and take a deep breath. Just pause. I mean, even if you're in the middle of good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and you realize my mouth is dry, I'm so uncomfortable, I'm so nervous, just pause. Take a step back from the mic. Take a deep breath in and out. Yeah. And keep everybody in suspense, whatever. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It won't matter that much.
Yeah.
Just take a moment, step back, take a deep breath in and breathe out. Immediately, what you're doing is you're kind of deceiving your body.
Huh.
So what happens when you're asleep? Your breathing changes. You start to take deep breaths, slow deep breaths. So when you take a slow deep breath, you're basically telling your body, hey, look, we're in a relaxed place. We're relaxed. So your body's like, oh, okay, yeah. This deep breathing is how we are when we're relaxed. So you can do it once. You usually should feel some relief. If you don't, do it again and again until you feel some relief. If you don't feel some relief after you've done it 4 or 5 times, I can't help you. But it usually works like magic. Yeah. Once you breathe deep and let it out, you find yourself collecting yourself or pieces of yourself that had walked away already. You get yourself back and you have the confidence to continue.
Do you think it is possible for people to overcome their stage fright or fears?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, well, like you said, it's about confidence. And that's absolutely the case. What makes you afraid is that you don't have enough information to make you comfortable on stage, or you don't think you have enough information. So if you're making a presentation about business and you're not a business person and you're in front of business people, you feel nervous. Why? Because these people are probably more knowledgeable than I am.
Yeah.
And the information I have, they probably have. They probably won't appreciate what I'm dishing out to them. So you feel uncomfortable. Why do you feel comfortable? Well, sometimes in front of children. Yeah, because they generally don't know anything. You probably know everything. So you're comfortable. you know. So what gets rid of the stage fright is usually that you know your material
Mm.
and you know a little bit about your audience. You know why you're there to deliver what you're delivering. And then, of course, just make sure that you're okay with yourself. Make sure you're dressed as you ought to be.
Yeah.
Make sure you prepared, you brushed your teeth. Yeah, because you don't want to get up there. Like I told you, your body is telling you, let's get out. I'm going to die. And your body will bring up every negative thing it can. It'll tell you that, you didn't cut your hair, you didn't line it properly.
Mm.
So they're probably looking at your hair now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And you didn't brush your teeth. So you probably shouldn't smile. And you should not, just talk with like short breaths because you never know,
Mm.
And did you remember to wear deodorant?
Oh wow.
Yeah, you're probably smelling funky. Your body will say all sorts of things. It'll tell you that these people probably think you're just I wonder what they think of you. Your body will say all sorts of things. So you want to take care of those personal things. You know, um, I have a thing I like to do, and I used to do it. I don't do it as much now, but I still do it. When I have a big speaking engagement, I buy brand new underwear.
What?
Yeah, brand new underwear. So apart from my new suit and my shirt, brand new underwear, you will be amazed at the level of confidence it will give you.
Okay.
I said I wasn't giving any more tips.
That's a pro tip. I should pay you for that.
You should.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
So what does that help? Does that help you feel achieved or new or what?
So there is, and you will admit, there's something about wearing new clothes.
Yeah.
That freshness, that sense of I am the best that I can be right now.
Yeah.
This is what new clothes do to you.
Yeah.
You wear brand new shoes, brand new suit or, dress, kaftan, whatever. It's like this is the best that I can be right now. Boost your confidence. Yeah. Now my tip is public.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. I don't know. That's a public-private tip.
Yes, it
If this
is. It is.
yeah. So you I I think I want to know more.
Okay.
'Cause, yeah. If you have other tips that you think I can pay you to say that for our audience.
Well, with stage fright, there are different things that make you afraid. I've tried to mention a few of them.
Yeah.
Now, usually take time if it's a professional presentation. Take time and study your whatever it is you're presenting. The subject.
Hmm.
If you master the subject, and some people go to the extent of memorizing what they're going to say. Yeah. They go to that extent because they don't want to miss out on anything.
Yeah.
And it works. So take time, study the subject matter. Be sure about what you're going to say first. Now, two things. Be sure about what you're going to say first. Be sure about what you're going to say last. First, and then deal with what is in the middle.
The intro
Because
and outro.
there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Because your intro will make the first impression.
Yeah.
Now, with me, because of the voice I have, I realize that even now that I've grown up and I've kind of filled out from that skinny teenager, my voice still commands attention. So my intro has to be captivating, not just in what I say, but in how I say it. So I use my voice, and introduce myself. Your intro leaves a first impression. People listen to you and they decide right there and then, okay, this guy is worth listening to.
Yeah.
Now, when you have them, when you take them through whatever material you're taking them through, when you're done, you also want to leave them with something to remember you by.
Hmm.
So you don't want to take them through a course and, maybe they're bored or whatever. Maybe you bore them. And at the end of it, it's like, oh, finally, we're done. Thank you. Good riddance. you know, you want that. You give them a good intro. Okay, fine. You bore them. But at the end of it, you come up with something. It could be something, maybe it's what you say, something witty,
Mm.
but you need to leave them with something to take home and to remember you by. You know, so those are the two things you need to be aware of. So study your material, lock down your intro, lock down your outro. But study your material, know everything. You know,
So before you came, I wrote a short script, like
okay.
a promotion script, and I was hoping I could trick you into doing a free promotion for us.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, this is the moment to test your skills.
Wow. If you wanted to trick me, there's actually a way that you can trick me.
Okay.
It's usually through my bank account. It always works.
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
Trick me. In fact, I tell people to trick me all the time. Okay.
So that's the camera. If you
Ah,
ever wanted to look,
at the camera. Okay,
mhm.
so the face behind the voice.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, what if one conversation could spark hope, shift perspectives, and inspire change? Welcome to the Yellow Mic, the podcast where real voices meet real stories. From social issues to personal journeys, from everyday struggles to moments of triumph, we're talking about what matters. Hosted by Kongs Shamaki, each episode shines a light on voices that challenge, encourage, and empower. So plug in, lean closer, join the conversation. The Yellow Mic, where every voice counts and every story inspires. Available now on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Yeah, that one take.
Well,
Thank you.
you're
That
welcome.
is more than gold
All right.
to me and to all of us here. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for coming by and for sharing your personal stories and tips. And I must say, it's an honor having you here.
Thank you.
I've always wanted this, and
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank
Me
you.
too, actually.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.